And our first speech will be given by Steve McGuinness. In his teens, Steve often went on day hikes in the woods with friends. This quickly evolved into overnight trips at nearby shelters, cabins, and campsites with scouts. Much later in life, he took the time to go back into the woods, onto the trails, and resume the adventures that he enjoyed so much in his youth. Please welcome Steve for his speech entitled Fulfilling the Adventures of a Lifetime Through Backpacking, about his transition from scouting to a family man to backpacking. Welcome, Steve.
I know what most of you are thinking. What kind of person is willing to leave the comfort of a warm home, a hot shower, a firm mattress, and loved ones to venture out in the wild? Pretty crazy person, huh? Well, check out this picture that I took last year of this person sitting on a mountainside overlooking the foothills of the great Mount Washington in the White Mountains, in the presidential range of the White Mountains of New Hampshire. You can't see his face, but you can imagine what's going on in his mind. Who or what created this mountain range? How long did it take? How did I get here? Where am I going? Will I ever be back here again? Well, I'll tell you exactly how I got there. In my youth, I went on many day hikes out in the woods near my home. The outdoors became my special place of exploration and adventure. I started backpacking with the Scouts in my youth for several years and went on many excellent adventures and hikes with them. Then the adventures ceased. Along came college prep, college, marriage, home ownership, moving, parenting, job changes, grandparenting, etc., etc., etc. And before I knew it, nearly 40 years had passed by, during which I rarely ventured into the woods. On 2015, I day hiked the Royal Arch Trail in Boulder, Colorado. That hike was wonderful. The views beyond the arch were spectacular. When I returned home, I decided to hike as often as possible and discovered the Appalachian Mountain Club. In 2016, I had a few positive encounters with backpackers hiking the Appalachian Trail. As a result, I decided that I would venture back into the sport to see if I could somehow experience the magic that they expressed in their voices, their smiles, and their swagger. The following year, I purchased my first backpack, tarp, hammock, stove, and some other items. I still have that backpack here today, 48-liter Kestrel. Late summer, I went on an overnight shakedown hike at a local campsite. I hiked 3.5 miles in and endured the remnants of Hurricane Hugo. It was a good practice hike and confirmation that I could stay warm and dry in such harsh, wet conditions. In 2017, I planned and executed my first backpack hike along the Appalachian Trail in Massachusetts. Over 6 days, I hiked 75 miles through the beautiful Berkshire Mountains, which culminated over Mount Greylock, the highest peak in Massachusetts. I loved that experience and was very happy with my newfound sport. So I went out and purchased a larger 60-liter pack so I could carry more gear and food. Over the next 4 years, I spent most of my vacations hiking 1 or 2 weeks at a time along the Appalachian Trail. I endured many hard, long days carrying a pack that weighed as much as 35 pounds. I learned to hike in all kinds of conditions and overcame many obstacles along the way. Most of it was fantastic. Some of it was not. I had a few falls along the way, some muscle cramps, some blisters, some bee stings, sunburn, and heat exhaustion. I learned to take the bad with the good. There's certainly a lot of risk with this sport, but there are ways to mitigate most of them. One of my favorite tools is prayer. As a result, I'm confident that the Lord will take good care of me and my family while I'm away. So what are my plans for this year and beyond? I'd love to get my 6-year-old grandson into the sport. I'd like to complete the last 150 miles of the Appalachian Trail in Maine, which includes the 100-mile wilderness. I'd like to hike the picturesque 240-mile long John Muir Trail in the California High Sierra. I'd also someday soon like to hike the scenic 93-mile Wonderland Trail around Mount Rainier in Washington State. Who knows? Time will tell. So to recap, I learned about hiking in my youth. I took a break from it as life got in the way, and I recently resumed the sport that I so loved in my youth. I've hiked over 100,000 miles of the Appalachian Trail and thousands of miles of local trail. Between jogging and walking and hiking, I'm averaging over 1,000 miles a year, which is common amongst people in the sport. I've dropped my body weight from 190 to 145 pounds, sometimes lower, and I've learned the sport well and want to share it with others. So I ask you again, what kind of person is willing to leave the comfort of their home to venture out to the wild? Someone who wants to get outside more and become one with nature. Someone who wants to explore places that you can't get to by car or bike. Someone who wants to feel true independence carrying all the necessities of life on their back. Someone who wants to take their children on their adventures of a lifetime. Someone who wants to tell their grandchildren about their most excellent adventures in the wild. Someone like me, Mr. Toastmaster.
You definitely have inspired me to get out and do more hiking. That's been one of my favorite things during this whole COVID situation, and it definitely makes me want to get out there more. So thank you so much for sharing today.